ordinary participant in our democratic journey in the last 25 years, serving first as a parliamentarian, then as a Speaker of House of Representatives, and until recently as a two-term governor of my state. Many are called, but a few are chosen. I thank the Almighty for His special favor in my life. I thank Nigerians for giving me the opportunity to serve at the highest levels. And I thank you for finding me worthy of delivering the keynote address at one of the activities marking a major milestone of our democracy. I say thank you. The second is to extend my heartfelt congratulations to all Nigerians on the 25th anniversary of continuous civil rule in our country. A quarter of a century is a major milestone in the life of any organism or entity, be it an individual, an organization, or a nation. So congratulations are in order. I hereby extend my warm felicitations to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to other excellencies here present, and to all Nigerians across the nooks and crannies of our country. Years, and the challenges that we have confronted and surmounted in the process. That is the nature of human beings. But an occasion like this should also allow us to take a pause, look back, then look forward. Many may not remember now, but we started the Fourth Republic on a note of anxiety and uncertainty. When we set out on this journey in 1998-99, some Nigerians entertained doubts that democracy would endure for long. Very clearly, Nigerians were tired of military rule, but there was also a sense, even if not loudly expressed, that the military might soon be back. Those who refused to participate in the process at that time, and those who entertained doubts at the beginning of this republic, were not just being risk-averse or unduly pessimistic. They were relying heavily on our previous history with democracy. Recall that our first republic lasted under 6 years. Our second republic was for a little 4 years, over 4 years. And our third republic didn't really take off. Combine our experience with democracy as of 1999 was around 10 years, out of 39 years in an independent country. So it was not unusual to have doubts, secretly or openly, and to entertain the fear that democracy might be jinxed in Nigeria, or that the Fourth Republic might suffer the fate of its predecessors. It wasn't baseless fear. That sense of doubt and fear still lingered up to 2003, when we had our first post-transition election. The reason for this is simple. Things usually start falling apart after the second cycle of elections. Our first republic didn't survive the rancor and the violence that followed the 1965 general election. Neither did the second republic survive the turmoil that followed the 1993 elections. But we successfully broke the jinx in 2003, and here we are marking 25 years of continuous civil rule. We have broken other records in this journey. We have conducted consecutive 7 cycles of elections. Recall that we had only 2 cycles of election each in the first and second republics, and only one election cycle in the Third Republic, which was even annulled. In this republic, we have had transition of power from one president to another 3 times. In 2007, from President Olusegun Obasanjo to President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua in 2015. And in 2015, from President Goodluck Jonathan to President Muhammadu Buhari, and in 2023, from Muhammadu Buhari to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We didn't have such a privilege in the 3 previous republics. We have also had 2 presidents who served out 2 terms of 8 years, and we have also had the transfer of power from one party to another. We didn't have any of such in earlier republics. Over time, too, our elections have become more competitive, as we all see from the results of 2023 elections. Our democracy can thus be said to be maturing in both age and temperament. It has been tested on many occasions, and it has stood firm. I would like to refresh our memory about 2 major moments of trial for our democracy. The first is the third term saga. As part of the constitutional amendment process in 2015 and 2006, there was a proposal for a third term for president and the governors. This was in the build-up to 2007 general election. The proposal and the moves to get it passed shook the country to its foundation. Though they didn't say so openly, and some of them continue to deny it till now, but the sitting president and most of the state governors wanted the amendment. The advocates argued that more time would be needed to deliver sustainable development. Those opposed to it felt that it was immoral for the proponents to be the beneficiaries and that it could lead to life presidency and possibly dictatorship. I was the Speaker of the House of Representatives then, and I was privileged to be in the front row as history was unfolding. On 6 May 2006, the third term agenda was defeated. The country heaved a loud sigh of relief. It is important to remind ourselves that the major test came at a time when the Fourth Republic was still in its infancy. The Republic was just 7 years old at that time. The second test came also early in the day. This was the uncertainty that followed the sickness of President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua and his failure or inability to transfer power to the then Vice President Goodluck Jonathan. The uncertainty and the heat generated could have given the military an excuse to strike. And there was indeed some clamor and whispering in some quarters for that, but the armed forces exercised the needed restraints. The political class, with the National Assembly in the lead, deployed political sagacity to fashion out the doctrine of necessity, and the gridlock was resolved. As we mark this important milestone of our democracy, we need to specially appreciate and acknowledge our armed forces, not only for continuing to protect the country, but also for allowing our democracy to grow. It was not unlikely that during those trying periods, some politicians and other disgruntled people were winking at or encouraging the military takeover, but they refused to be dragged in. We call on our armed forces to continue in that professional and principled path. There will always be challenges in democracy, but the system has also adequate inbuilt mechanisms for resolving such challenges. We have faced other key challenges, chief of which is lingering insecurity and the threat posed to the security of life and property by terrorists, bandits, and insurgents in different parts of the country. But we have also made progress in many other areas in the last 25 years. Look around Abuja and go around the country and compare the level of physical, social, and human development in 2024 and that of 1999. It is easy to take some of these things for granted. This is not to say we couldn't have done much better, especially in the management of our economic and social affairs. And in terms of making the country more secure, we could have done better. It is on this note that I will quickly turn to a few issues that should be on the forefront burner as we contemplate the future of our democracy. I will make 5 points in this regard. The first point is that we need to pay serious and continuous attention to the shifts in the perception of Nigerians about our democracy. It is easy to think that our democracy can continue to weather the storms because we have had 25 years of unbroken civil rule. That might be misleading. Democracy can continue to endure only when the people think it is desirable and thus worth keeping and defending. According to a 2022 survey by Afrometer, 70% of Nigerian polled prefer democracy to other forms of government. That is the good news. But 77% of those that surveyed are not satisfied with the way democracy works in Nigeria, up from 57% in 2017. This should get us worried. We need to understand why our people are gradually losing faith in democracy, and we need to consciously strengthen their faith in democracy. The second point, which is related to the first, is that we need to put more effort in delivering the benefits of democracy to the vast majority of our people. Democracy as an idea is great, but people cannot eat it. Scholars such as Amartya Sen, the economist Nobel laureate, talk about instrumental value of democracy, which is about how democracy should serve as an instrument for a bridge to a better life for the people. Our people call it in Nigeria dividends of democracy. People do not want democracy for its sake. They want democracy to translate to material benefit to them. They want concrete dividends from democracy. We thus need to redouble our efforts to eliminate poverty, reduce inequality, deepen human capacities, and expand opportunities in our society. My third point is that we need to pay special attention to the needs and the mindset of our youth. The youth constitute an overwhelming majority of our population today. It is projected that by 2050, Nigeria will be the third most populous country in the world, with a preponderance of young people. Nigeria can become a global economic powerhouse if we harness the full potential of our youth. To realize this benefit, the so-called demographic dividend, we need to create the enabling environment for our youth, and by extension, our country to thrive. Most of our youth are not satisfied with the system today, and they are checking out of the country in large numbers, mostly because of lack of opportunities for them to actualize their dreams. Let's create the opportunities for them to stay back at home and contribute their quota to the development of our country. On a related note, more than half of our population today are under the age of 25. This means that most of our citizens were born after 1999. This group includes a significant number of people of voting age today. I call them critical voters. It is important to pay close attention to this group of citizens. On one hand, they can be called the children of democracy. They should be natural defenders of democracy. But on the other hand, they have no memory of how bad the alternative to democracy could be. Our youth in our country and our democracy. The first point I want to make is the need to refine our concept of local governance. We need to ensure that there is adequate, effective governance where it matters most, at the local government level, which is where most of our people live. One of the reasons why local government areas are not functioning effectively is because of the constitutional confusion about their status. On one hand, the local government areas are supposed to be autonomous of states, and all are listed in the Constitution. But the same Constitution creates joint accounts for state and local government areas, put the local government areas under supervision of states, and mandate the state parliament to make laws for LGAs, for local government areas. My considered opinion is that we should redefine the functions and the structure of local governments and remove the confusion enshrined in the Constitution on their status. This does not mean that we are going to abolish local government areas. No, but we should allow each state to decide how many administrative units it wants to have based on its resources and needs. We should also allow local governance to be adapted to local realities rather than aim for uniformity across the country. My last point is passionate appeal to my fellow politicians that the populace, we all need to continue to do our part in strengthening and deepening our democracy. Politicians need to be more sensitive to the needs and the feelings of the people. We need to continue to remember that democracy is the government of the people, by the people, for the people. It is not just the government of the politicians, by the politicians, and for the politicians. In representative democracy, elected politicians merely hold power and trust for the people. We therefore need to prioritize the needs of the populace ahead of our own needs. We also need to become better democrats. We need to fully imbibe the culture of democracy. We need good winners and good losers. I think the former president has addressed this point very well. To be a good loser, you know what it means. It's to be accommodated. On the other part, our people also need to be more patient with the country. While 25 years of civil rule or 64 years of independence is a long time, it is just a speck in the life of a nation. Most of the countries were eager to compare Nigeria today went through the challenging moments too. They were totally different from the countries that we know 200 years ago. Nation building takes time. We also need to be more patient with democracy, which by its nature is slow and complex. Democracy is about process, which may make it difficult for issues to be addressed or resolved with immediate effect. It is not without challenges, but democracy is still the best form of a government. We need to stay faithful to it. I want to conclude this by praying for democracy to continue to grow in our land, not just in years, but also in quality, and for the overall benefit of the mass of our people. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for listening, and God bless all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Our guest speaker, former Governor of Katsina State and former Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Right Honorable Aminu Bello Masari, CFR. Your Excellencies, just a quick announcement before we go on to the next thing, and this is appealing to participants, those in the hall at the back. It's been observed that there's been a lot of murmuring behind, and the noise consistently interferes with what's happening here. May I just appeal that we keep it a little bit quiet, especially at the back there. And also, we've heard cases of some phones ringing out. If you could just put those phones in the silent mode, I do assure you that we'll get through very quickly. And now, turning to the discussants, I'm afraid I'm going to have to put a little bit more constraint on you, but I do believe that you're quite capable, given your background and your prowess in discussing national issues, so that we've had to cut down on the time you have to 3 minutes each, and that would be what you'd be expected to do. I know it sounds a little bit Herculean, but we do have confidence that you can do it within this period. So, for the discussants, time now for you to dissect what's been delivered so far in 3 minutes. We'll start with you, Kaderia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cyril. And because we have a limited amount of time, I will stand on existing protocols. In many ways, the keynote speaker, His Excellency, Right Honorable Bello Masari, has actually presented what I think is a comprehensive look at Nigeria's democracy, our journey, and our current challenges. And I'm acutely aware that I'm sitting in a hall with people, some of whom lost people in this fight for democracy, sitting before a people who work for a government led by a man that essentially fought so that we're sitting here today. Nonetheless, it is important to say clearly that democracy, as practiced in Nigeria today, is not working for the majority of citizens. And it's really, because we don't have time, it's really easy to just simplify it. You just need to look at the quality of people's lives. People are not able to have any meaningful life because they are battling with poverty. The numbers that we have suggest that more and more people are falling into acute poverty. The World Poverty Clock says something like 77 million Nigerians. Sit down for a minute and think about it. Live on less than $2 a day. Our minimum wage. A minimum wage that we are trying to increase, but which governors, many governors are saying they can't afford to pay. They can't afford to pay. They are riding in bulletproof cars that cost an arm and a leg, right? They're flying in private jets and in business class seats and first class seats, and they do not see how they can reduce their own spending so that the average man can put food on the table. I am running a lot out of time, so I want to be really quick. We also have another problem in the sense that we have identity politics now being presented to us as the option for solving our democratic or our governance problems. So in the last few days, I've been seeing maps of a new Nigeria, etc., etc. There's nothing wrong with restructuring. Restructuring becomes problematic when ethnic and religious identity is the basis for it. It is not sustainable, right? We also have a country today where a lot of ethnic profiling of my people, the Fulanis, is taking place, right? Nobody is being collectively punished for the fact that you have gunmen running rampage in the east, and that Boko Haram is mostly made up of Kanuri people, but Fulani people are victims of bandits and also other Nigerians. The point I'm trying to make is that democracy, for it to work, has got to be fair. If we do not sort out our judicial system and the basis of equity for everybody, this democracy is going to collapse. And my last point, because I've run out of time, and I'll say this really quickly, is that I think because we sit in Abuja, in Lagos, in all these big cities, and things seem to be functioning, we don't understand how much erosion has happened to our social cohesion. I travel for work as a journalist. I go to rural areas, I go to villages. The level of hate that has been stoked, the level of poverty under which people are living, all mean that our societies are collapsing. And people are sitting and thinking they can keep talking about democracy and elections and it will be okay. No. There's a level of reform that is fundamental, that needs to occur if this country is to survive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you. And well, 3 minutes.
Well, thank you. Mr. President, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, leaving this auditorium today, we must all reflect, and we have to be sober about where we are as a country. His Excellency Masari have given us a lot of food for thought. But I also think that we have passed in our democracy. Because with the uninterrupted democracy, we've passed average. And I think that we must pat ourselves at the back. Although I'm not a youth, but I'm a young person, and I believe that I've paid my dues. I started my career in this Fourth Republic. Nigeria is still emerging, and Nigeria gives an opportunity for each and every one of us to play our own role. And for me as a young person, my question is, what role are you playing, irrespective of where you are? We can blame our politicians, but we, the populace, and particularly young people, have the highest population. Sadly, we're dealing with Japa syndrome, where we're losing talent every day. But I believe that if we reflect and we're sober, we will come to terms that the two most important ingredients that are missing is trust and peace. I've just returned from Borno, and during my time in Borno, I visited Goza. And I think we must commend our security agencies. I cannot re-emphasize or overemphasize this. We must commend them for their role in our democratic journey. But I also think that we must explore opportunities that we've not even looked at. Agriculture and technology has given us hope to explore, create jobs, create values, but most importantly, allow young people play their role in democracy so we can enjoy the dividends of democracy. As I wrap up, for us to rebuild back trust, we must follow the money. In my work, as follow the money, trying to answer where funds are coming from, where they're going to, but most importantly, how these funds are being judiciously used, particularly at the grassroots. If we're able to ensure transparency and accountability from the people who holds the hems of affairs, I believe that this will take us through the journey of rebuilding back trust and confidence, and each and every one of us will play our role in this democratic journey. Thank you.
All protocols observed. I'd like to preface my conversation about our democracy and the survival of our nation with the simple definition of democracy: government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And what could possibly be wrong with that? We would all agree that there's nothing wrong with that, except, of course, the people who practice the democracy. I'd like to thank the keynote speaker, former Governor Masari, for a fantastic speech. Many of the notes, thinking that we would have enough time to have conversations, really reflected many of the things he said in his speech. But I'll quickly just touch on 3 points. One is the question of the cost of this democracy. Our democracy is too expensive and it's choking us. We would have to find a way to get around it, whether it's the cost of governance, whether it's paying attention to what my co-panelist Kaderia talked about, the poverty, because then when people are poor, the resultant effects of illiteracy and so on, which then impacts on democracy. People, 25 years later, we're still struggling for a lot of Nigerians to understand how to vote, what participation in election means. What we see today in the name of democracy is the political class is busy serving themselves rather than serving the people. The second point is the issue of justice, electoral justice or otherwise. People go to vote. At the end of the day, it's the judiciary that would decide who would emerge as leaders of the country. We need to question that. We need to begin to interrogate that. Justice for the poor, justice for the rich, justice for the weak, justice for poor. But more importantly, a justice that is rooted in equity, that people have trust and faith in the system. Then finally, the question of nationhood. We can't overemphasize that. And to this end, I'm really using this opportunity to call for a national conversation about our democracy 25 years after and where we expect to be 25 years. We shouldn't be tired of talking about Nigeria. We shouldn't be tired of talking about this country. There is so much division today. The country is more divided today than it has ever been. And it's not a problem of this administration. When anybody critiques democracy or the challenges of the people, shouldn't see it as a critique of the APC government or a critique of the Bola Tinubu administration. Many of the problems we have in this country today predate this administration, but it's incumbent on this administration, of course, to take the bull by the horns and do what needs to be done. The fear and loathing in Nigeria today is destructive. We can't continue the we versus them. Kadira talked about Fulanis. I'm Igbo. I tell you what people go through. 3-4 years ago, I was stopped at the airport in Abuja here because I wore a t-shirt and it had something to say about Biafra, and I was detained for a whole day. So we need, democracy is not just about election and voting. We need to interrogate our relationship with each other. And one quick point. Yeah, one final point I want to make, and the keynote speaker touched on this, is the question of local government. Nigeria has a bizarre federalism, and therefore it's impacting our democracy. We need to understand the relationship. If you look at federal societies, whether it's Canada, the United States, Spain, and so on, the constituent powers or the groups that constitute your federation, it's either in the United States, the federal government and the state government, in Canada, the federal government and the regional government. Local government are not or should be responsibility of the states. So you have the federal government and the state government. Let's remove state governments in local governments in our constitution. have a national constitution and allow the states determine how they want to run, what kind of local government they want to run. That's the only way we can improve this democracy. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much to the discussants. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, could we appreciate the discussants, Kaderia Ahmed, Hamzat Bilal, Chido Onuma. Thank you so very much. They did what we thought would be impossible, and they made their points in just 3 minutes each. A round of applause for them again. Thank you very much. Right. Now, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I now invite the Chairman, Public Lecture Subcommittee, Hadiza Bala Usman, Special Advisor to the President, Policy and Coordination, to now come forward and thank you for attending this lecture. And that will be just before His Excellency, the Vice President, delivers his speech. Thank you.
The Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, His Excellency Senator George Akume, the Head of Service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade Yemi Osem, the Governor of my state, Katsina State, my brother, His Excellency Dr. Dikko Redda, the keynote speaker, His Excellency Right Honorable Aminu Bello Masari, the Vice Chair of the occasion, Ambassador Babagana Kingibe, Honorable Ministers here present, diplomatic community, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to convey our appreciation for the distinguished members that participated in this public lecture. As the Democracy Day of this year, we mark a significant milestone in our nation's 25-year history of uninterrupted democracy. This day holds immense importance as we honor the sacrifices of our heroes who fought tirelessly for the freedom we enjoy today. We have spent this morning not only celebrating our democratic achievement, but also contemplating the future and the work that lies ahead of us. This is the hallmark of a country putting all its best forward for the best of our people. Our keynote speaker, His Excellency Right Honorable Masari, aptly noted in his keynote that Nigerians are yearning for tangible dividends from democracy. These legitimate expectations call for a renewed commitment to eradicate poverty, reduce inequality, enhance human capacities, and expand opportunities across our societies. This is a charge to which our administration, the President Ahmed Bola Tinubu administration, has fully committed itself through our Renewed Hope agenda. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who played a part in making this event a resounding success. Your dedication and contribution have ensured that this lecture was intellectually stimulating, inspiring, and educational. A special thank you goes to His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Commander-in-Chief of our Armed Forces, President Bola Tinubu, GCFR, for his contribution to a truly great democratic nation and his leadership to our country. Our appreciation goes to Senator George Akume, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, for his unwavering support. The chairman of the occasion, His Excellency Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, for his invaluable presence, his guidance, and his contribution towards the democratic growth of our great country. Our keynote speaker, His Excellency Right Honorable Masari, for coming here to deliver a very rich keynote and insightful address. I would like to thank the Vice Chair of the occasion for providing us with interim guidance as we seek to start our deliberation. Of course, our esteemed discussants, Hamzat Lawal, Kadria Ahmed, and Dr. Chido Onuma for their thoughtful, provocating contributions. I must also acknowledge the hard work of the Public Lecture Subcommittee and the larger Interministerial Committee, ably chaired by His Excellency, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Your tireless effort behind the scenes have been instrumental in bringing this event to fruition. And to all the guests who attended this event today, we wish to thank you for your presence and participation. Your engagement is a testimony to our collective commitment to a democratic process and the future of our nations. I thank you all for listening, and God bless you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Special Advisor to the President, Policy and Coordination, Hadiza Bala Usman. Your Excellencies, just a quick announcement. Immediately after the Vice President's address, there'll be a group photograph here. Let me just quickly acquaint you with the procedure so that we'll do that smoothly as soon as he finishes. The first photograph will be with the Vice President, and in that photograph will be the SGF, the co-chair of today's session, the Governor of Katsina State, the guest speaker, and those in front here, including the head of service, but excluding the service chiefs at this point. The second photograph would be, they would now be joined by the honorable ministers, the permanent secretaries, and the service chiefs will join in the second photograph. That's the procedure for the photograph, but that will be after the Vice President's address. For now, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me invite the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, to now deliver his address.
Kindly sit down, please. I'm equally intimidated by the galaxy of stars I have seen honoring this invitation. The Deputy Chairman of this occasion, His Excellency Ambassador Bahana Kingibe, GCON, His Excellency the Governor of Katsina State, Dr. Diko Umoru Radda, our distinguished keynote presenter, Right Honorable Aminu Bello Masari, our chief host, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator Dr. George Akume, distinguished and honorable members of the National Assembly present, the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, my colleagues in the Federal Executive Council, special advisors and other senior aides to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, permanent secretaries, directors general, and heads of extra-ministerial agencies and parastatals of government, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Gavin Musa, and other service chiefs present, heads of security and paramilitary agencies of government, traditional and religious leaders, former senior officials of government, elder statesmen, mention must be made of Pa Baba Kande and Chief Pius Akinelure, and of course Senator Shaibu. Our distinguished discussants, captains of industry, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. That we have sustained democracy in Nigeria for 25 years, the longest stretch in our storied past, is a testament to the enduring sacrifices of several generations of patriots. 25 years is a long time to tell the efficacy of any experiment. And our democratic experience, despite the lows and the highs, is a telling referendum on our aspiration to build a nation that serves the interests of all, a federation that has not conspired against any benign group. We are here because the alternative is a descent into diosphere. Today is a moment to reflect on our journey so far, the tragedies Nigeria survived to settle for this democracy. The purpose of such experiments must inspire each of us to play our part to honor the labor of our founding fathers and mothers, and remind ourselves of the principle that drove their resolve to build for us a diverse nation that has defied the pessimism of detached agents of anarchy. As we celebrate our past, we must also look to the future with a clear and determined vision. Today is not just a day of remembrance, it is a call to action. We must engage the young and competent the patriotic and innovative, to join us in crafting a succession plan that secures the future we desire. It is through their strategy, their energy, creativity, and commitment that we will build a Nigeria that stands resilient against the challenges of tomorrow. Let us therefore pledge to create an environment where every Nigerian, regardless of background, has the opportunity to contribute to our shared destiny. In these 25 years, we have learned that democracy is not a destination but a journey, one that requires constant nurturing and vigilance. Our progress has been marked by both triumphs and trials, each serving as a reminder of the preciousness of our democratic principles. As we move forward, let us recommit to the values of inclusivity, accountability, and transparency, ensuring that our democracy not only endures, but flourishes for generations to come. The future of Nigeria lies in our hands, in our ability to dream, innovate, and act with courage and conviction. Let us embrace this moment with a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that the path we tread today will shape the Nigeria of tomorrow. This is an invitation for each of us to participate in building a nation where every voice is heard, where every potential is realized, and where every citizen is empowered to contribute to the collective good. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I crave your indulgence to pay tribute to one unsung hero of this democratic journey. Nigerians suffer from memory amnesia, but it is pertinent to remind us that some 3 years ago, there was a clamor robustly funded for a northerner to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari. It came with a crescendo, again robustly funded and supported. In those days, a tendency emerged within the ruling party. Some of the dramatis personae are alive today. One of them is Right Honorable Aminu Bello Masari. As a group, we were driven by a forest of ideas. But what separated us and defined us from other political groupings at that epoch was our realization that what this country needs is a unifying leader who ponders neither to ethnic nor religious agenda, who is not bound by any toxic regional solidarity, and yet known for outstanding leadership. We searched the political horizon. Our search fell on one person, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Martin Luther King said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands at times of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the road, the path that led us to Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not happen by chance. This is a man who had shown a ferocious penchant, who has shown a commitment to sacrifice his comfort, a propensity of sacrificing his own well-being for the enthronement of democracy in this country. During the darkest hours of military dictatorship, when the nation was enveloped in darkness, when there were hues and cries of marginalization and of the impending breakup of the nation, this gentleman sacrificed his life, his time, and resources for the enthronement of democracy in this country. This political enigma had been caricatured But our younger compatriots must be in the know of Tinubu's memories from 2 decades past, when he was the fulcrum of opposition to the enthronement of one-party dictatorship in this country. When his contemporaries were trading their principles for a place on the dinner table in Abuja and in the process throwing their allies under the bus, he provided courageously a political alternative to the ruling party. He was fiercely ostracized, politically ostracized, and antagonized by ruling PDP. By the virtue of his commitment, his zeal, and his resources, ever a Democrat who believes in the rule of law, one by one, this gentleman retrieved the stolen mandates of Rahman Mimiko in Ondo, of Raub Aregbeshola in Oshun, of Adams Aliu Oshomole in Edo, and he has remained a veritable sanctuary for victims of political witch hunt over the years. When former Vice President Atiku Abubakar was harassed, intimidated, dehumanized, and chased out of the PDP, it was to Bodyland that he ran to. And it was the lion of the Bodyland that gave him the political structure to contest for the presidency under the platform of the Action Congress. His choices of Northerners to fly the flag of his party underline his pan-Nigerian credentials. 4 years later, the same Bola Ahmed Tinubu provided the same political structure for another Northerner, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, to contest for the presidency of this country. The likes of Baba Akande are still alive to tell the story of the emergence of former President Muhammadu Buhari as the flag bearer of the APC, and his subsequent success at the 2015 polls. He was one of the most demonized politicians in Nigerian history. He was caricatured. But the Bola Tinubu political machine took charge. They even changed the frame, the eyeglasses of the frame. They humanized him by getting him to dance in Ibadan. If they met him to wear a suit and go to a church. And without the political support of the Southwest, the story could have been different. This is the unsung hero of the Nigerian democratic journey. And in the fullness of time, I fervently believe that posterity will be kind to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.